back, relax, and maybe get yourself a snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hey guys, so I'm here today to review a book that I gave 5 stars to and I would thoroughly recommend that you guys check out and read. It's a new release and it's called Coldmaker by Daniel A. Cohen. It was very recently published and it's a book that I've not really seen many people talk about, so I definitely think more of you should hear about it and then hopefully go and read it yourself, because I picked this one up by chance. I went to Bath last weekend and I absolutely loved it. There were loads of independent bookshops, one of which was Mr. B's, and we went in there and I asked the booksellers for some recommendations, and this was one of the ones they gave to me, and I'd never heard of it, so of course I picked it up. And I am so very glad that I did, because this book was a complete surprise, but I loved it. This is set in the world Cried, a place where heat is almost unbearable. It's basically a desert and a wasteland, filled with boiling rivers and water that is virtually undrinkable because it is so very hot. In this world, there are 2 types of people. We have the Jadens, who are slaves, and we have the nobility. The nobility are constantly in shade. They have different types of magic called cold and wisps, and this magic is gathered for them by the Jadens, the slaves of this world. The Jadens have to go out in the sunlight and the torturous heat every single day and wait on a corner until they are called upon by a noble to do their bidding. When they grow up a bit further, they are sent off to hunt for wisps and cold, and whatever cold they find is brought back to the nobles and the nobility and divvied out among them, with a very tiny ration being given to the Jadens in this world. This world is so incredibly unbearable that water literally has to be cooled down with magic before it is drinkable. You could not possibly drink from the river because you would scald yourself. It is doable without dying, but it is not going to be pleasant, and most people try very hard not to be scalded to death. We follow one particular Jaden, who is a young man called Mika. He is one of the workers who waits on street corners, waiting for nobles who are frivolous and fancy and constantly spoiled to come over and ask him to do their bidding. Mika is also known as Spout because, unlike most slaves, he actually sweats a fair amount, and this is constantly getting him into trouble with the taskmasters, who are constantly thinking that he has excess water to spare if he is sweating. Spout is a very likeable character right from the start because he is a rebel and he definitely defies the system in small ways. Every night he goes out and he hunts in the scrapyards and sees if he can find any strange materials that he can tinker with and build into something new. He wants to be an inventor, although he knows in this world that is never going to be possible, but he does in the secret of his home when he is away for the night with his adopted father. He just hides and he tinkers and he tries his very best to make life slightly more bearable for him, his father and his friends. Spout lives with his father, who is called Ab, and he is an adopted father. Ab is a proud but kind man. They don't live the best life that Jadens can possibly have. Most Jadens believe that the best life they could have is by being bought by a noble and brought into their house and then made to work only for that noble. But basically, if you're a Jaden, life is never going to be fair. However, Ab and Spout do have a good life when they are back in the barracks after a hard day of work and they can relax and tell stories and be together. But as always, the days out in the sun take their toll. They are torturous and they've seen horrible, tragic things happen daily to friends of theirs, family members and other Jadens they don't know. The setup of this world instantly intrigued me. The idea that there's this world with stuff so hot that you literally can't drink the water was fascinating, and I love the fact that this magic they have, called wisps, is kind of like, it's almost like ice, but it's magical, and you can crush it into things and it will cool things. But it seems like in this world the system is nobles get the magic and Jadens get the offcuts of the magic when the nobles don't want it anymore, or just the bare minimum. Cold is a commodity which is not lightly given. Every wisp that is found has to be instantly given to the nobles and reported. But the Jadens will not survive if they are not given some of the wisps to drink their water and some food from the taskmasters. The way that they do this is completely up to the taskmaster. Some taskmasters are nice, but very few, and most of them are completely headstrong, powerful brutes who are nasty and cruel and torture the Jadens to their heart's content. They get bored standing around in the heat themselves, even though they have all of the luxuries of having cold at their disposal, and so they end up torturing and belittling the Jadens who are working for them. Each Jaden is forced to stand on their street corner until they get a token from a noble which tells them that they have to go and do something for that noble, whether it is buying a fan or whether it is going and finding something or relaying a message. It could be anything, but the Jadens are not paid, they are just told they have to do this thing or they will not eat. Their lives are completely governed by tasks and taskmasters, many of whom are ridiculously cruel. Later on in the story, alongside Spout, we also follow a young girl. She is a pretty unique Jaden because she is defying the system. She does not believe in the way things are and she wants things to change, but instead of sitting back and just getting on with it like most people, she is actually going to force a change. She lives out on her own, away from the rest of the Jadens, and no one really knows much about her, but quickly when she starts to intervene in the situation and act up against the figures of authority, stuff starts going wrong quite fast for all of the Jadens, and everyone starts to suffer very, very bad consequences of her actions. She's trying to shake up the system and change things for the better for Jaden kind, but actually she makes things worse before they get better. And Spout unfortunately gets sucked into this too because he finds her and meets her before all this drama happens, and he ends up befriending her and getting involved in this mission that she's part of. What I really liked about this was that it felt instantly readable. It's told in first person, and so you instantly connect with the main character of Spout, or Mika. He is a really likeable person because he has a real sense of self and a charm about him. He's loyal to his family and his friends. He just wants to please them and try and make the best of the situation he's in. And although he doesn't always challenge things, he does challenge things in the way he thinks about stuff. He is an inventor, he is creative, and he is innovative, and he has solutions to the world, but he doesn't understand how to implement them just yet. I feel like although there are fewer characters than a big epic fantasy, this is definitely more of a high fantasy. It definitely has some real great characters at the forefront, particularly our main character, but also the secondary character of the young girl. They are really well fleshed out, and I feel like over the course of the series we'll get to know them really, really well. Each of the characters is really fleshed out and really developed, and even the ones who are minor side characters I felt like I had an emotional connection to. By the way, this author is not afraid of doing horrible things to some of the characters, and I was outraged by some of the things he did, so just be aware, he's pretty harsh with his characters, he's not afraid to hurt them. Overall, for me, this story was fast-paced, it was beautifully written, it was a cool concept and a really original idea that kind of kept me reading from page one. I didn't want to put it down, I finished it in 2 days flat after work and I just loved it, so I would fully recommend picking this up. It's a short read and one that you could definitely get through on a weekend. I really enjoyed it and I'm super looking forward to book 2 coming out, I think hopefully next year, maybe? Fingers crossed, because yeah, it's just such a fun start to the series. Do leave me your comments down below if you are going to pick it up, let me know. Thank you all so much for watching and I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye guys!
Thank you for watching my video today. Go pick up a book, then come back and chat with me again.